Welcome back, the Winning Plays podcast. And Robb, not that I haven't enjoyed, like really loved the last few months doing this, just you and I, but there felt like there was a little something missing from this podcast.
Agree, completely agree. And it feels so good. Michael Pina is here. He's been able to take a couple months to take in the full off-season makeover, to kind of harness it in, give us his fresh hot takes. But we are reunited, and it feels so good. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm back. I feel great.
Fax it over.
This is yeah, exactly. No, this is awesome. I haven't seen your beautiful faces in so long, and so this is a real treat for me. So thank you for blessing me with them.
I'm going to bless you and welcome you back with a question that I was it came up in a conversation I was having earlier today. Let's say we are redrafting the rosters, Celtics and Hawks. Yeah. So first of all, number one pick, obviously I need to know. Second question is, how many Hawks do you pick before you pick your third Celtic? So who's the first pick? I mean, it's really Trey or Jason.
I think it's still safely Jason.
Safely.
It's safely.
Yeah.
Safely
defense is if defense is a consideration, then it's very safely Jason Tatum. But I think your second question about how many Hawks get picked before the third Celtic does, that's a little bit of a hairier question to answer there.
That's tough. I mean, first pick for me is still Tatum. I think second would be Trae Young, third would be Jalen. And then it gets, I mean, we're talking about building a team, right?
Yes, yeah, not just best player necessarily.
Okay.
So like, who do you need, right? You need a Capella. You can start the whole.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to think now who would even be my number 3 on the Celtics.
That's another good question.
Right.
I think and the first player that popped in my head is Smart. Would you guys agree with that, or am I?
Without thinking about it for more than 5 seconds, Smart is definitely at this point, which is scary for the Celtics. But
right.
Yeah, that's who I think it might be.
By default.
Or a guy that we'll talk about later. But
yeah. Okay. So then I have. Okay, DeAndre Hunter, I would put ahead of Smart.
I mean, John Collins. Bogey, I would put ahead of Smart too.
Bogey.
Herder.
I mean, I'm just like.
How far down we go here?
It's a crazy.
I mean, they have such a good roster. It's like Kevin Herder, are exciting for this type of exercise. Like Cam Reddish, Onyeka Okongwu was just like incredible in the conference finals for like 5 minutes, and I fell in love with him. I did on Open Floor yesterday. We ranked all the teams in the Eastern Conference, and way too early to do that exercise, by the way.
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it because everyone else was yelling at me. And I had the Hawks in third place in the East this upcoming season. I'm just really, really high on them.
Where did you have the Celtics?
Milwaukee and Brooklyn, 1-2 though, real quick.
Brooklyn 1, Milwaukee 2, Hawks 3, Heat 4, 5 Celtics, 6 Sixers, and then I honestly forget where I went from there.
So you actually are high you're high in the Celtics though, if you have them at 5, given this offseason.
I am. A lot of it, the argument, I don't want to get to, I feel like we're already going off the rails here, but.
You just did a whole podcast on this. We're talking first 5 minutes.
Okay. But the reason why I'm high on the Celtics is, and I could be wrong about this, of course, but I look at the roster and I feel like their defense will be substantially better than it was last season. And they can put lineups on the floor where there's no weak link. So in the regular season, if you have a really good defense and they can set your floor as a team, that's just an advantage night to night when you're going through back-to-backs and you're going on these road trips, etc. So I like that for them. And Enes Kanter ruins this whole theory of mine. So hopefully he's out of the rotation or something. But if you just name go down the list of guys who you think will be in the rotation playing big minutes, they're all plus or average defenders. There's no significant weak link as you had with Kyrie, as you had with Kemba, et cetera. So I think that's a positive. I think that everything that happened last year was a worst case scenario. There won't be Jason Tatum getting COVID. Hopefully there won't be Jaylen Brown getting hurt. And all these other injuries and loss of time from players due to health and safety protocols. There's a new head coach who has preached ball movement as a fundamental tenet of the offense, which was one of the bigger problems with last year's team. And a lot of the young guys last year who weren't ready, I anticipate being maybe not, superstars or anything like that, but I think they'll be ready to contribute in a meaningful way. So that's my case for the Celtics and why I have them at 5.
Do you feel like they could use another little point guard right now to get there?
This is a good segue. I like it. I know what you're doing.
A bit of a bargain basement addition.
Really quick. When you said that, I know where we're going to go with this, but my first thought is Sharif Cooper. that I'm still upset about that. And I mean, maybe we'll talk about this. Like, I'm actually kind of excited about the guy they took instead of Sharif Cooper. But while watching Sharif Cooper in that first game against the Celtics, did nothing to quell my pain over passing over him at the end of that second.
Didn't Madar strip him a couple times though?
I don't care. Maybe he did.
We'll get that.
I'd rather have Yam than Sharif, but I don't know. The highlights of Sharif were worth a couple of yams. Everyone's going to get yammed, by the way. 2 months into the season, Sharif being the first will be the first of many.
Okay. But
this is how I know you're going to talk about Dennis Schroder right now.
Yes,
and you reported, were you the first to report?
I wasn't the first to report. I was one among many. There was a lot of Schroder buzz last week, but I confirmed that there is an offer out there for him for the mid-level right now on a year. And whether
taxpayer, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I wasn't able to hammer down the exact amount, but obviously taxpayer would be definite. And then, with another trade, they could open it up to, the non-taxpayer, which would be 9.5, but that would involve moving your boy Chris Dunn or something else. So we'll get to that in a second. But Schroder, I do want to talk about with you guys from this standpoint. And Rich and actually we talked about it Friday. I think Rich brought up proactively started the tidal wave towards
I did. Did you cite me in your report?
I should have cited you. I was like first brought up by Rich Levine on the Winning Place pod. But does this make? I mean, the money makes sense obviously if it's for close to nothing. But just in terms of like where, like as maybe a guy to block the development of other younger guys on the roster, does he make sense, or do you just want him in here to maybe help compete a little bit in the East next year, and maybe he's a long-term solution if you end up, moving smart or something else like that?
Well, that's one question. Is there a chance, Mike? Do you think he could be in the long-term plans? Like if you just get him here that first time, or is he a guy that's just going to take the biggest contract if he plays well enough to want to keep him around?
I don't foresee him being in the long-term plans unless, the Celtics are forced to pivot away from their obvious plan A. And which is, keeping all that flexibility for Brad Beal or maybe even Zach Levine. I don't know. But an all-star caliber player. So yeah, and one of I saw on Twitter this morning, one of the points of contention for Schroder was that he wants a player option on that second season. I'm like, if he wants a player option with this little amount of money, give it to him. He's opting out. It doesn't matter.
Barring a torn ACL, he's gonna opt out.
Yeah. So and at that money, you could just work a buyout. You could get off it very easily. Who cares if there's a player option on $5 million? That's just nothing. But no, I don't think he would necessarily be a part of the long-term plans. I think he wants to be a starter somewhere. I don't think he's good enough to be a starter on a very good team. And so there's kind of that push and pull with him and wherever he lands up. But no,
that's why that's why I'm kind of all right with not having anything to do with that. You know what I mean? And again, I know, Mike, you're just giving your perception right now. You haven't spoken to Brad about this, but assuming that he's not going to be part of the big picture, that for a guy who has a history of being such an I want to say, D-bag when he's not happy, and the potential to not be happy if he has greater aspirations that are maybe going to be afforded while he's in Boston. And especially like you said, B-Rob, when he would be taking minutes away from, I don't know if it's Pritchard, if it's developing Romeo more with the ball in his hand. And again, that's also the Celtics accepting that maybe they're not contending this year. But if they're not, and Pina, like you said, like if the game plan is still to just hope that Bradley Beal and Jason Tatum have had the conversation and Jason's had the conversation with Brad and that's going to happen, like I don't see a reason to take a chance on a Dennis Schroder. He's not going to make a contender, even the best case scenario.
I wouldn't mind seeing what a different point guard looks like next to Tatum and Brown, though. That's like not smart. Just to see what it looks like. And we know that's smart. You can move smart to the 2 in this scenario and like start small and like defensively when Schroder wants to get after it, he can, like as we saw in his OKC days when they went, 3 guards all the time with that group. Yeah, I mean, he's probably not good enough to be a good starter on a very good team anymore. I'm not sure the Celtics are going to be a very good team next year, but it's also a situation where if he has a good year and you can flip him for something at the trade deadline proactively, it might even be worth it for that. But like you said, there is risk involved in terms of, blocking the development of the younger guys for a guy that, is probably going to be out the door after the year ends.
I mean, I personally don't care about any of that. Like, I think you should get talent in the door if you can get talent in the door at a wonderful value, which is what this would be. So I don't even think twice about signing Schroder. And yeah, like he does make everything else a little bit easier for, Marcus Smart won't be overextended as the starting point guard, and, Jaylen Brown won't be overextended in a playmaking role, even Tatum. And so like Schroeder's good. Like if the Lakers were healthy last year, there's a possibility that he could be the starting point guard at an NBA champion. That's like a reality. He's not like a pull-up 3-point shooter, which is very different from Kemba, and he's okay spot up from deep. So off the ball, it'll be a little interesting, but no, I'm perfectly fine. When you lose someone like Kemba Walker, who was pretty integral to how they played offensively when he was healthy, bringing in Schroeder, I think would be a big boon. And the other thing is you can't fall too far if you're the Celtics and you want to sign Brad Beal.
Yeah.
Like
you can't be behind the
Wizards are better. Exactly. If the Wizards are better, which I like a lot of the moves that the Wizards made this offseason, frankly. And if they hit with Spencer Dinwiddie, like look out if he's healthy. But Brad Beal, who's preached loyalty to the Wizards, isn't going to like, if the Wizards are the 6th seed all of a sudden, and this is like the best team he's ever played for in Washington, and the Celtics are the 9th seed, I don't think he's necessarily going to be making that leap. So
I wonder.
Yeah.
But you would still say no, I was saying you would still say even if the Wizards have a great season, given the Celtics core, you would still say that they're closer to winning a title, right?
Yeah, I would say that, but
make the decision harder.
Yeah, I just think that if you're Brad Beal, who has said multiple times that he wants to stay in Washington, he wants to spend his entire career there, he just needs the organization to show him some stability and some, I don't know, sense of like common sense. And trading Russell Westbrook for the pieces that they did, signing Spencer Dinwiddie, like those were common sense moves that were actually, I think, pretty good. So he might have suddenly a new turn of faith with the organization all of a sudden, and that you add that to the loyalty and everything that he's spoken about. Like, yeah, I agree with you that Tatum and Brown are a better core, but maybe he just wants to stay put and be the guy and see where the next, 3, 4, 5 years of his career leads him in Washington.
Yeah. And you look at the rest of the East too, even if Washington doesn't have a great year, if the Celtics are like the 8th or the 9th seed after going into next year with some bad injury luck or just, none of the young guys step up, then again, your case to Beal gets a lot tougher. So
I already told you that they're going to be the 5th seed though. So
I know. Well,
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
My mistake. But yeah,
edit that whole conversation out.
Yeah,
we're fine.
We'll say ceiling's 5th, floor is 9th, and where they fall in there could have a dramatic impact in terms of how they just look entering 2022 free agency. But all right, so we got 2 yays on Schroder. We got 1 nay from Rich.
I can easily be talked into it.
You
by
could
the way,
eat through your
but
like
that's just my thought right now. Yeah.
No, I guess yeah. I mean, to Mike's point too, like none of the young guys on this roster have shown enough promise. I feel like yet where you have to say like we don't want to sign someone for cheap to give you guys opportunity, because they're, like I said, like their development's important, but these guys need to show they deserve minutes, and they'll still be able to get minutes if Schroeder's here. There's still enough playing time available off the bench, because outside of Richardson, there's really not much there at this point. But at the same time, you can't, if it doesn't clog up your future options, you can't you can't hand minutes to Neesmith, Langford, and Neesmith and be like, no matter what, you guys got this. Like I don't think that's a great plan either.
I'm ready for Nees to get a more consistent role. I think he's right. I mean, he's going to have to obviously impress Ime, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like what he did last year will be less meaningful than if Brad was still the coach. But I think he's in a position. He looks bigger. You've seen him up close to Summer League, B-Rob? Like, he seems bigger to me. Like, he's got that year in the NBA body. Yeah,
he looked, again, he was very, I feel like, lanky at the beginning of last year. But yeah, I agree. Like, he's more built out now, and hopefully that strength kind of translates well. And
some of that's compared to the other kids that are now just coming into the league who haven't had that year. But he does look, noticeably bigger.
He's no Begaron in terms of, like, that guy looks like he's built for the NBA already.
By the way, I'm hearing some good things about him from inside Causeway
Street. Inside practice sources.
Oh yeah, what it was off of the Mass Pike.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a great defender.
Yeah.
From what I hear, a very willing defender. I guess apparently there's an interview on Celtics.com right now that they did. I don't know if it's up, where they asked him like what they think the best part of his game is. Yeah. And his response is, "I like to steal the ball."
He did at the end of the Summer League game to clinch the win against the Hawks. So
yeah, Marcus Smart is his favorite player apparently, and he hit. Sorry, this phone's gonna stop in a sec. But and he hit two threes right in that first league. If he can hit corner threes, I'm not. What? Okay, this is a pie in the sky.
He's gonna be great in 2 or 3 years on this team. That'll be.
He just turned what, 18 or 19?
19.
So yeah, I'm hearing good things.
All right, that's good to know. That's the winning play scoop right there. Mike, you watched 2 minutes of Yam Madar highlights. We need to fit in a couple minutes of Summer League talk here after that. I know you want to see Chris Dunn as a Celtic next year, but Yam Madar might not let that happen. Are you buying in on the Yam Madar hype?
But first, Mike, did you know Yam's nickname? Did you hear that part?
Oh yeah.
No, I haven't.
So earlier this summer, I spoke to Joe Alexander, the former Bucks.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, wow. Who's been playing in Israel for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. He tells me Yam Madar's nickname is the Shitty Kid.
The Shitty Kid?
Because apparently and you saw this a little bit. I don't know if you did, but he has insane amounts of confidence, insane amounts of swagger, and apparently, like, no matter who he went up against, no matter who it was, and he was a kid playing in Israel at this point, he treated them shitty. Whoever the opponent was, he didn't back down. He treated that opponent shitty. And I'm sure there's some Hebrew translation at work here, but his nickname is the Shitty Kid. Now I want to hear what you think about
That's
him.
Wonderful. No, I love that. Okay, so I did see the highlights. There was a floater that looked pretty. He hit his jumper looks pretty nice. The form looks good. Yeah, I mean, as I said to you guys via text beforehand, I'm all in on Chris Dunn, and Chris Dunn's my guy, and I think that he's
make the case for Chris Dunn then right now, because people forget about what he can do when he's healthy.
Okay, so 2 years ago in 2019-20 season, he was maybe the best on-ball defender at his position in the entire NBA. With Chicago. Like, all the advanced numbers were all about it. The on-off numbers, the percentage of his points scored off turnovers, primarily because he was just like destroying guys and living in passing lanes and just picking people's pockets and going the other way, was through the roof, and like the high the NBA had seen in like 5, 6, 7 years or something like that. I spoke to him the night that he hurt his knee in Brooklyn. So that was just terrible. And I had to write a story about a guy who like was going to be out for weeks. But
you spoke to him beforehand, and then he
like
went out
literally 15 minutes before.
So what did you do with that article? How did you work around that?
I just wrote, I wrote it. We were like going to wait to see how long he was going to be out. And I don't know. But we ran it like when he was hurt, and yeah, anyway. But no, he's just really good when healthy on the defensive end, and there's offensive issues for sure. And his jumper has never really come around, but he just has energy and activity, and I just like him a lot. And I'm really glad the Celtics did not draft him initially out of Providence, because they got, what was that, the Jalen draft, right?
Yeah, that was Jalen, yes.
Yeah, I remember. I did not want Chris Dunn. I don't know who I think I wanted Dragon Bender that year, which is why I don't run an NBA team.
Wait, was that the Jonathan Isaac draft or no?
No, Isaac was Tatum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted Isaac over Tatum.
I remember that.
Yeah.
But I've kind of lost track of Dunn's injuries. Is it like consistent? Has it been his knee consistently, or has it been all sorts of different?
No, I think he had surgery on his ankle in the preseason, and that just like destroyed the whole year for him. And then I think there might have been a shoulder, but I might just be making that up. So, yeah, but when healthy, he's really good, and he's not that old. I think he's older than a lot of people would think because of when he entered the league, but I don't know. I like him. I think he's a rotation player on a pretty good team, and no disrespect to Yam, the shitty kid. But I like Chris Dunn more.
Well, so would you rather have him over Schroder? Because it's like, I feel like there's not room for both of those guys on this roster, probably. And Smart, at least. And Pritchard.
Well, what is Carson Edwards still on the roster?
No, Carson Edwards is gone in that scenario, I guess.
Can we? I'm
getting pretty sad. He's still playing Summer League.
I don't know why he's still playing Summer League. No, yeah.
This is kind of a little of a tangent here, but like, I don't know, like the Matisse Thybulle for Carson Edwards trade.
Not great.
And we trade away Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane's like the best player in Las Vegas right now. And then we have, I understand like trading the pick to get off of Kemba's salary, even though he was willing to apparently lose $20 million or whatever it was in the buyout with Oklahoma City. But then you get rid of this dude, Şengün from Turkey, who I watched his debut with Houston, and he just looks like he's going to be like a multiple time all-star. Like, I don't know. I'm a little frustrated. I'm not going to lie. I just want to get that off my chest because I haven't been here in a while.
Been a bad couple years.
Feels good. I'm glad you're good.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, Ryan's been filling your void in terms of the frustration front. Well, in terms of that, but yeah, it's not great. Not great.
As lucky and as perfectly like manipulated the previous, what would we call it, like 6-7 years were, maybe.
Yeah.
Before the Gordon injury, maybe we'll call it.
Right.
It's been that bad.
Yes.
In the last 2 years.
And like
just
you said,
a tangled web of shittiness that sort of it worked out in the worst possible way. Like, and before they were smart and got lucky. Recently, they have been dumb and gotten unlucky.
Yeah. And now they have very little margin for error. Brad Stevens has tried to untangle the web of mistakes, and now he really can't afford to make another one or two here. And he honestly is kind of setting himself up by thinking, I'm not even going to try to make a big decision yet in terms of like offering a big deal. So it's you need to start hitting on the fringes and stuff like that. And whether they can do that, I don't think Enes Kanter standing is going to do that, but maybe a Josh Richardson and Chris Dunn reclamational project. Let's talk about Richardson real quick before wrapping up here. I actually like him a lot defensively, and I liked him a lot with the Heat. I know he had a couple tough years, Mike, but what's your read on him?
I mean, if he looks like the guy who was in Miami, what was it, 3 years ago now? Let's see, Dallas last year, Philly the year before that. Yeah, if he's that guy, he's awesome. Like, he can handle the ball, he can run pick and roll, he can hit spot up threes. He's super dynamic on defense, and just like a really skilled player. Yeah, he's not like super old or anything like that either. So, I mean, I was a little surprised, honestly, when I saw that Dallas made that trade, because they kind of didn't they stay above the cap. They ended up staying above the cap with, I mean, I don't know the timing of all this, so it's kind of hard to say, but they want to clear cap space to get Kyle Lowry or get a free agent. They were positioned to do so, but shouldn't they have like seen the tea leaves and realized that they weren't going to get anybody with their cap space? They didn't sign a point guard yet. I mean, the Gordon Dragic thing is unresolved for them, but they re-signed Tim Hardaway Jr. So I think they must have had to stay above. They're above the cap.
Yeah. They didn't make
and they used their mid-level. They used their mid-level on Reggie Bullock. So they definitely had to have been above the cap.
It's almost like they fired their whole front office right after right before the offseason.
Very fair. So I did not understand that, because Richardson, even though he was out of the rotation in the playoffs, last year, some players I feel like you got to throw last year out the window. He had COVID. He had a bad case of COVID. So I think he can be really good for this.
I think that's an interesting point. I think there are going to be a lot of surprises, a lot of bargains to be had based on just not even just last year, the last 2 years, just been so crazy for so many people. And let's hope that it's going to be pretty close to normal by the time this next season rolls around. But yeah, I think there could be a lot of surprises, and you do your homework. If you get lucky, like we said, it's always a big part of it. Like, there could be some good bargains and contracts to be had.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, the Mavs got Moses Brown out of that deal. So, I mean, he'll be putting up 2020s for them for the rest of the
They have a lot of centers.
Pavon. They do have a lot of centers on the roster. That was probably just more about the Celtics dumping some money while bringing Bruno Fernando, who's making a summer league debut today, by the way. So
hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses.
Yeah.
As he's building his trade value in real time during summer league play.
He's playing in summer league.
He's playing in summer league. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
okay, cool.
Big thanks for the rest of the week.
He was on the Hawks last year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he actually played his rookie year a lot, and then obviously he was buried last year because they got Capella and other good players to play ahead of him in the front court. So we'll see. But the Celtics didn't have really a center on this whole roster, so we'll actually get to see a center next to Neesmith and Langford and company.
And you're the center on our roster, Mike.
That's right.
Is that a compliment? What is that?
I know. I was just trying to transition back to
okay.
What we're going to go out as we came in. I don't know. I'm sure I could if I thought about it for 2 minutes. I'll text you later what that means.
Okay.
But, thanks for coming back. This was fun.
This was fun. Always happy to be here.
I was thinking about the one we did in Vegas a couple years ago when we were all sitting around the restaurant. The diner table in the casino.
Yeah. Do you remember what our waitress's name was?
Fuck. Do you?
No, I have a terrible memory. I have no chance. But she made an appearance. Longtime listeners will remember. Yeah.
I think that might have been close to our most listened to podcast ever. I'm not joking about that. We were talking about Tatum versus Lonzo Ball at Summer League. And that was like the hype of the world that when they
I hope I said smart things.
Right. It's like,
my last question for Pina, so we can maybe get some of that bump. Is Gelso going to be on the Hornets roster?
I mean, they cut one of the
Martin twins.
The Martins.
I saw that.
I was like, it's interesting.
Yep. I don't know.
I always wonder real quick, like if you're an identical twin, and they are hardcore identical twins, couldn't they just like live together and like alternate going into the practice facility? And
that's not the only thing you could alternate.
Sure, that's true, Rich. That is true. That is absolutely true. But they could both just play on the team, and no one would know. I don't know.
It would at least be an interesting experiment, just one day. I don't know. Is Caleb and Cameron? Is that
Cody?
Cody.
Yeah, Cody and Caleb.
I wonder if you could go. I mean, I think if it was Marcus and Markeith, I think they could pull it off pretty easily. I mean, the identical tattoos and all that. Brooke and Robin obviously went their separate ways, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell the difference between either of them.
That sounds like a story idea, Mike, for you to dive into for SI this year. You pitch it to
Twins that are cheating.
Yeah, like pitch it to them. Pitch it to whoever who stayed there. Be like, hey, we're gonna try this. Send your brother into practice today.
The untold story. Yeah,
I'll consider it.
All right. Well, make sure you check out Mike on the Open Floor Pod at SI. You guys still twice a week? You guys making those out right now? Still?
Mm-hmm. Still.
nice.
All throughout the off season.
So
Keep it going.
Doing great work there. Rich, have fun at the Red Sox game tonight.
First time
With the
at
family.
Fenway in like, I want to say close to like 6-7 years. I'm excited.
All right, so we'll break that down on the next Winning Plays Pod.
Mhm. Of
Red
course.
Sox in turmoil.
I'll be live
And-
tweeting. I'll be live tweeting the game.
Good.
If anyone wants to follow along.
Hit us up at Winning Plays Pod on Twitter. You can check us out on YouTube as well if you want to see our early mugs, and we will be back with you guys probably later in the week for a little summer league wrap up, and maybe see if they get another little point guard on the roster.